Alright, and welcome to my Alien vs Predator Nightmare difficulty guided walkthrough. This is the PlayStation 3 version, which came out back in 2010. And in this playthrough I will essentially show you how to get through Nightmare mode if you kinda suck at this game. Because if you've seen some of my other walkthroughs, you know that I have quite a bit of difficulty in games that require precise aiming. And first-person shooters are a prime example of that. So for me this playthrough was a lot more difficult than what I would expect it to be for the average player. Regardless, it is doable, but it is certainly not easy. Because Nightmare difficulty is basically a sort of hardcore mode where you need to get through each individual mission without checkpoints, meaning without dying. So your margin of error is rather low on Nightmare mode. Now immediately here at the first alien that you encounter, you learn a very important lesson, which comes in handy throughout this entire playthrough. Namely that when you hit an alien in the legs and cause them to drag themselves forth like this, they will slowly bleed out. So in essence that means that a bleeding alien can already be regarded as a defeated enemy, at least as long as you're able to stay out of its reach. Especially against groups of enemies, this is a very important principle to remember. Because it means that you don't have to focus on each individual alien until it actually dies. You can shift your focus immediately as soon as you manage to mortally wound it. Moreover, this also allows you to preserve ammunition. However, since a bleeding alien is still capable of attacking, you need to keep moving while remaining aware of your surroundings. And that will be a returning principle throughout this entire playthrough. Your awareness of the environment and how to properly manage it, so to speak. But I will get back to that later on. First, let's get to the second encounter and talk more about the regular xenomorphs, which are the main enemy in the game. Now what you need to understand is that their giant heads are the easiest to hit, but contrary to other shooters, the head is not the weak point. In actuality, their tiny arms are the weak point. Destroying the arms will make for a very quick kill, but they are hard to hit, especially if you suck at aiming like me. So you won't see me do that a lot. It's best to go for the legs when you are using either the pistol or the pulse rifle. Now another thing that you saw me do was the melee attack. This is not meant to do damage, it is also not something like a knife in other shooters, for when you're out of ammo. It's basically a way to save yourself when an alien is right up in your face. It will knock them back slightly and stun them for a short while, giving you the opportunity to get away. Instead of an attack, you should regard it as blocking or a sort of shield move, so to say. It's a last resort. Regardless, as you saw, I did take a hit, but fortunately there are new healing items called stims nearby. But that's of course not always the case. However, there is actually a way to take advantage of how the life meter works in this game. And you will see me use that especially in mission 2 and 3. As you can see, the life meter consists of 3 bars and each bar will regenerate as long as it's not completely depleted. And even though enemies do quite a bit of damage on Nightmare difficulty, which is the same as on regular hard mode by the way, not every attack will deplete an entire bar of health. And because I'm not particularly skilled at this game, I want to prevent doing any unnecessary fights. Some fights are required, but some are not. And regenerating health allows you to essentially run through certain sections of the game, even with several aliens on your trail. If they merely scratch you, chances are that you can run through specific sections with no permanent or at least a minimal loss of health. However, the fight in the nightclub here cannot be skipped. So here we need to, what I said before, have proper awareness of your environment. What I mean by that is that during combat you are mainly running backwards. Which would look really silly if they did that in the movies, but in this game that is what you will be doing most of the time. Because the aliens take a lot of hits, move really fast, they can crawl on the walls and the ceiling, and other than spitting acid, they can only attack when they are up in your face. Moreover, if you kill them up close, chances are that you will get doused in acid. So in essence, they want to close the distance and you need to keep away from them. So what this entails is that mostly you are fighting when running backwards. Mostly. And of course, they take a lot of hits and are difficult to hit in the first place. But the obvious consequence of running backwards is that you cannot see where you're going. So that's what I mean with being aware of your environment. Because you need to run backwards into the open spaces, often without being able to see. And if you get stuck against a wall or an obstacle, you are either fucked or forced to use your melee attack and hope for the best. Fortunately, there are of course also places where you have more freedom to move around and you can use the environment in such a way that you're not forced to blindly run backwards. Sometimes you can run forward without running straight into your enemies. But the point is simply that environment control is key in this game, especially when dying sets you all the way back. Now the second main fight in Mission 1 doesn't really allow you to move around at all, or at least your movement is extremely restricted. Fortunately, you have a partner with you to help you out, but it is a matter of RNG exactly how helpful this NPC is going to be. Regardless, even if their aim is worse than mine, it will help you to spot where the aliens are. Because this game is already incredibly dark, the aliens are black and can blend into the environment. So not only are they hard to hit, they are hard to see as well. So make sure to pay close attention to where your partner is shooting, because at the very least they will shoot in the right direction. Also, the principle of bleeding aliens counting as already defeated enemies still applies, but keep in mind that in restricted areas they might stay alive long enough to reach you, so at least don't get careless. By the way, you get a trophy for beating the game on Nightmare mode, so at the end of Mission 6 you will actually see me getting that trophy. Because this footage is from my first time beating this difficulty setting. Although a trophy is not really worth it. What I really would have liked is if there was a special ending on Nightmare mode, where you finally learn how the egg got on board of the Sulaco in Alien 3. Or where they declared that entire movie to be non-canon. That would be fine as well.
Lost it in the shadows. It's here! It's here! Don't relax just yet, Marines. You hear that? Don't let your guard down. Squash that bug! It's gone to ground. Don't relax just yet, Marines. Open fire! Whew, I can't believe we made it through that. Charlie team's on.
Once you get the waypoint for the elevator, it takes some time until you can actually enter the elevator. So that means that you have to fend off aliens in a small corridor. So if you get grabbed, immediately start spamming R1. Because if you are too slow, getting grabbed will essentially mean instant death. You need to break free immediately to stay alive. Now, as you noticed, I cut out a lot in this mission, because it contains a lot of walking and dialogue, but the other missions are more to the point, so those will mostly be unbroken footage. Mostly. Also, other than the trophy at the end, you can see that this is Nightmare mode due to the lack of checkpoint markers. On other difficulty settings you get a checkpoint at certain places, but on Nightmare you only get those mission times and objective markers. No mention of checkpoints. Now for the final section of Mission 1, you need to reach the end of a tunnel. However, this is a section, like I mentioned before, where fighting isn't absolutely necessary. It's all about reaching the end, not about killing all the enemies. Although they do spawn in front of you, so running past them is not that easy. But in principle, it can be done. So, that's the end of mission 1. There are 6 missions in total for the Marine campaign. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and stay tuned for mission 2, the refinery.